Hey, this is Devo's Straight Dope. It's Thursday, July 18th, 2018. We're going to talk about all of this stuff that's been going on in the news that has been making a lot of Facebook memes. And by that, I mean Pool Patrol Patty, ID Adam, Permit Patty, Barbecue Becky, and so forth. Whatever you want to call them. Bottom line is, you have your typical African American individual or family or a mother with her child minding their own business, and out of nowhere you have a white person coming along and basically in so many words they're telling us we don't belong there, even if we do. So we saw all of this begin back in Memorial Day when this African American family were in a park where they were basically barbecuing, and yeah, they were barbecuing, minding their own business, and it was a barbecue zone. But that didn't stop this one woman who has become known as Barbecue Becky. She comes over and she says, you people aren't supposed to be barbecuing here. Barbecuing is not allowed in this park. And they said, yes it is, we are in a barbecue area, leave us alone. And so she wouldn't leave them alone. She kept harassing them, and then because they wouldn't pack it up and leave, she gets on her phone and starts calling the police right in front of them. You have this other Euro-American woman. She sees it and she decides to go after her for harassing people minding their own business, because she called it for what it was: ignorance, possibly racist, most likely racist. And as a result, the police came out and nothing came of it. The woman broke down and started crying. Barbecue Betty, she basically broke down and started crying, and so forth. And then, that's how it starts. Then you have an issue where this young African American woman and her baby are at this pool in the apartment complex where they live, and this anonymous white man comes out and says, you're not supposed to be here, you don't live here. And she said, yes I do. And he says, no you don't. And so she said, well, and he says, you need to leave. And he's harassing her, and she said, no, of course I'm not leaving. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to enjoy the pool with my child, just like everyone else. And so this guy pulls out his cell phone and calls the police. And they're arguing back and forth until the police get there. And the woman says, look, she basically says that she has permission to be in the pool area because she shows him the key card to get into the pool area. And the man was accusing her of trespassing, but she showed the officer the only way you can get into this area, into the pool area, would be by using a key card. Otherwise, you really think I'm going to throw my baby over a fence just to be able to use a pool? The cop who was smart enough to realize that this is all bogus, and also because with all of the shootings going on, police stations across the country are already on thin ice, he says, "Can you show me how this key card works?" And she said, "Sure." She takes it over to the little sensor. She shows how it opens and closes. And he says, "Okay, I have no reason to believe that she's trespassing," and the officer, he leaves. And then it continues with another pool patrol Paula. Well, the first pool patrol Paula on July 4th, where basically this African American woman, and I'm gonna save time, all of the people who are calling the police are white, they are Euro-American, and all of the people that are having the police called on them who are being harassed are black, African American. So, this woman in, in Memphis, Tennessee, on July 4th, she and her boyfriend are going out into the pool with her two godchildren. And they're the only black people in the area, everyone else is white. And so they're at the other side of the pool. They're just, the kids are in the pool playing, she's sitting in a lawn chair, and the boyfriend, he's sitting at the edge of the pool. He has socks on, but his feet are dipped into the water. And so, this woman, Erica Walker, who is the actual this woman, Erica Walker, aka Pool Patrol Patty the First, comes over and she starts hassling them, and it's not like she's sitting there by herself. She has friends that she's partying with in the pool, and so she starts harassing them. She says to the man, "You're not allowed to have socks on in the pool." And he, mind you, who wasn't in the pool, he was just dipping his toe in the pool, just sitting on the side of the pool, watching the kids. So, she tries to tell him this, and she tries to tell Erica Walker this, but she says there is proper pool attire. And then she says that there are rules. You should be obeying the rules. And then she said, "Well, those are the rules over there, right? We read the rules, and we're following the rules." And so Erica Walker, even though the woman said we read the rules, she reads them off anyway. No alcohol, no hats, must wear proper attire, etc. And the woman rightfully pointed out, the sign does not say, Erica Walker, by the way, is the property manager of the building. So she says, your sign says nothing about socks. It's proper pool attire. But the kids who are in the pool, they have on a they have on their swimsuits. And then the woman, Erica Walker, then replies, she's like, oh yes, and I see that one child is really young. I really hope that that child has a pool diaper on, or a diaper, has on diaper trunks or whatever. And the woman said, well, of course he does. And then she continues to harass them about the man's socks. Because the guy, he wasn't really taking it seriously, because he's sitting there minding his own business, while her friends they have hats on in the pool, and that's against the rules. They are drinking beer while they're in the pool and around the pool area, against the rules too. And so the woman who's being harassed, I believe her name is Camry, she says, I see you came over here from your friends, and you're cute. You come all the way over here to tell him about him wearing socks in the pool, and yet you said absolutely, but you say absolutely nothing about your friends wearing hats in the pool, about them drinking around the pool. You let them get away with that, but you come over here and harass me. And the woman said to the man, are you going to take your socks off? He said, no. And then Erica Walker said, well, you all need to leave the pool. And Erica said, we've done nothing wrong. You came over here harassing us. We're not leaving. And so Erica said, well, fine, I'm calling the police. So she calls the police, and then the cop who comes, who in a way is poetic justice, he's black, he's an African-American cop, he notices, he's able to diffuse the situation, and he had said, well, first of all, she's right, the sign doesn't really say socks, even though this is not a, even though he's not in the pool, maybe he shouldn't be wearing the socks. But the cop also says she's not, she's not creating a scene, she's not being disruptive, they're not being disruptive, and the simple fact is, wearing socks in the pool, if she lives in this building, that is not a police matter, it is a building matter. So that is something you're going to have to take up with the owners of the building for disciplinary action. And then the police officer leaves, but the damage is done. So not too long after that, I believe January 9th, in South Carolina, another white woman, and again in the South, this time I think it's North Carolina, South Carolina. What happens is, never mind. I just crossed into Cicero, Illinois, and I noticed this one guy in a van is being pulled over by a police car in a police van. So, probably a traffic thing. But anyway, what happened was, there's this black teenager in a pool, and Pool Patrol Paula II, this time she becomes openly racist. Like others, it's hard to tell one way or the other. This time, you know it was. I don't know if she was an owner of the building or not, but she calls this young teenage boy a nigger, and she starts punching him, beating him. This is a grown woman and a teenage boy, and she's doing this with witnesses. So something's definitely, like, if you'll excuse the pun, something's definitely in the water. Whatever it is, fortunately, I've not put up with this, but I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing these stories. I am tired of... I'm basically tired of hearing about young black men being shot down by cops. And I'm also especially tired of hearing situations like with Laquan McDonald in Chicago, where people have to really think hard to determine if it was justified. I mean, with certain cases, like maybe with Chris Brown, the big dude from Ferguson, Missouri, like there's video footage of him. So with that, like whether or not the shooting him was justified, I'm not 100% certain. But it really makes me angry when you hear about a 16-year-old African-American kid. Sure, he was running away from the police, speeding, but he was shot in the back, 16 times by these police, and it took, 2 years for that, for the dash cam footage to be leaked out to the public. I'm sorry, but now they're saying he was, that it looked like he was, trying to pull out a weapon. One, it was dark. I mean, sure, maybe that's their excuse. But the simple fact is, if he were pulling out, something, it would not take 16 bullets to the freaking back. No, there's something else going on with that. Now, mind you, and at my church, we have a couple of ex-cops, one of them being my pastor, and those I know to be, they were pretty good cops, they're legit. And in all honesty, but, so I know that there are plenty of good cops out there, but there are too many bad cops, and in fact, because of these police shootings, the one thing that I've noticed, besides people like a group of people that are just becoming too frustrated and they decide to destroy their own communities out of frustration, I'm talking about the rioters like in Ferguson. So with that, it kills me that because the cops were vindicated, that they burned down their own communities. And that's not the way to go about it. It's not. But another thing is, like, how can they be... It's just that a lot of it is what I call black schizophrenia. When you've had to put up with so much injustice in your life, the slightest thing looks wrong, and sometimes you claim that there's injustice when there is justice. So, but yeah, it really gets to me when I hear people actually have to sit back and wonder if shooting Laquan McDonald 16 times in the back was justified. Of course it wasn't justified. I can see if they thought he was trying to reach for something while running away from the cops. They shot him once or twice, but 16 times in the back, no. Something else was going on. But as for these barbecue Bettys, ID Adams, Permit Patties, Pool Patrol, whatever, Pool Patrol Paulas. Now, that's like, the thing is, in most cases, this is about the same as getting back to the cops, an African American being pulled over in an area with a car that looks too expensive to belong to certain people, if you get my drift. Or an African American being pulled over in an upscale white community. Now, and because they look suspicious. Now, in fact, in most cases, they don't just ask to see their license and say, "Where are you going?" Many times, even if that black man is cooperative, they'll still make him get out of the car, put his hands on his back, and then they'll cuff him, even though he's not being arrested, he's not posed any danger. So I know all of this goes on. And what did these people think that they were going to do by calling the police? Did they think that we would be too scared to live our lives? Did they think that they would get to see black people being shot or sent off to jail? No. Fortunately, I'm praising the Lord for this. Fortunately, the police officers who came were not Klan cops. These were decent cops who realized that the ignorance and the bigotry of the person making the call caused this officer who came out to waste his time. So I'm just thanking the Lord that these cops who came out were genuine cops. But what did they think was going to happen? No. No matter what happened in history, no matter what, no matter how we are dressed, no matter how we do our hair, whatever, we are American citizens. If we are paying rent in a certain apartment building and we're not making too much of a racket or any racket, we have the right to use the amenities of that residence that everyone else has. If there's a pool, we have a right to use that pool. We have the right, if we're allowed to barbecue in an area, we have the right to barbecue and live our lives without being harassed. We have the right to wear a shirt with our ethnicity without some idiot coming and telling us we don't belong in this country. And no, I'm not Puerto Rican, but that could have, if I were wearing something African American, if I were wearing my dashiki, it's very possible that guy could have come out and demanded to see my papers. No, we have the right to be left alone. And you know what? We have the right to be protected by the police. That Officer Connor, who Listen to that woman saying, can you come and help, this guy's harassing me, and he ignored her? That guy, it's good that he resigned, but he still needs, they need to make sure that he never wears a badge or carries a gun again. We have a right for the police to actually do their jobs for our favor. Now, sure, I will admit, some of us, we go to public places and we act like we have no home training. Like, we talk extra loud, we bring our stereo systems and we're blaring it. We're smoking by the pool when we shouldn't be. We're smoking blunts by the pool when we shouldn't be. Many of us, we just cause too much of a ruckus. And you know that people immediately see black people coming and thinking, oh crap, we're gonna have trouble. So, in all honesty, if you're one of those ratchet African Americans that like to cause problems like that don't remember simple matters, who don't clean up after themselves, let me just say, thanks a lot, because this is your fault. This is partially your fault. I have been saying this for years. The way we keep picking fights in public, the way we keep acting all nasty with other people in public, I knew that one of these days, some over-frustrated person of the Caucasian persuasion was going to resent even seeing black skin, brown skin in public areas. Where if they want to try to segregate us, they would feel justified because of these ratchet individuals. So thanks a lot. I'm not putting it all on them, because if the only African American people you know behave like that, what else are they to think? Like, if the only African Americans they know are those who go around talking so loudly that the whole country can hear, or they don't know how to properly take care of their hair, or they come around with their pants halfway down, showing their underwear, or if they start these violent fights over little things, what else are they to think? In all honesty, if I were white and these were the only black people I knew, these were the only black people I knew, then I would start feeling uncomfortable too. I mean, I may not do the ignorant thing that these troublemakers are doing, that these false 911 callers are doing, but I would be very uncomfortable, because sometimes we can't help our prejudice. Well, we can help it, but when you've lived through enough, it becomes an instinct. Just like an African American walking into a restaurant in a white area and they see all of the white people stop what they're doing and look at them. Now, in their minds, when they see all of these white people looking at them, they'll think, oh crap, someone's gonna try to do something, but even if they don't want us here. We're not welcome. When in reality, and I'm guilty of that myself, when in reality, they look at you and think, oh, an African American person in our restaurant. That's something you don't see. That's something you don't see every day. Oh well, I think I'm gonna have the chicken. Wink. So, like, so sometimes you don't know what they think because that's black schizophrenia, where when you see people looking at you, it's like you can tell, or you just have this unfounded belief that they hate you, that they're going to mistreat you, or whatever. So I get it. I mean, I haven't had any confrontations with these individuals, but I will admit when I see people stop and look at me when I come into an establishment, it does make me a little uncomfortable, and I do start to wonder what they're thinking. I don't automatically do what some people will do. I'm sure that there are people without home training, like I said. If they see all of these white people looking at them, they'll look at them and yell, "Alright, now what the expletive are you looking at?" Not the way to go about it, because then you are basically assuming you know why they're looking at you, and you're reacting on it. And so you make yourself a target, and you make yourself look bad, and you make your people look bad. So, in all honesty, and many people said that that people are emboldened because of President Trump. Honestly, this was coming. Whether it was Trump or not, this was coming. Because a lot of things were said and done under the Obama administration, which basically created some very hard feelings. And the whole social climate, even before Obama, has basically created some very hard feelings. So this is going to come because there's only so much people can take. It's human nature. Am I justifying it? Of course not. Do I think it's right? Absolutely not. But I understand why this is happening, but we need to do something about it. One, maybe, hopefully, this will become another wake-up call that we as black people, we need to stop focusing solely on our rights and start thinking more on our responsibilities. Yes, we need to focus on what we should be doing for ourselves and less than what other people should be doing for us. And then maybe these false 911 phone calls will go away. Maybe not. But if not, at least they will see that as a people, we don't deserve to be mistreated like this, and there'll be a greater outrage to make change. But for starters, I think it's time to create a law as to what people can call the police about and what not. I mean, this might cause people to start maybe becoming more like vigilantes, but for others, it could maybe curb them. Like when it comes to things like someone barbecuing in a public area. As long as no fire is spreading and it's contained to the grill, you can't call the police over that. If someone is doing something as little as waiting in a pool in socks, but they have clothes on and they're not deliberately contaminating the pool, and when I say deliberately, I mean like taking care of number two in the pool, or throwing stuff in the pool, or vandalizing property, then you shouldn't call the police. And they should actually make it where, because if you look at it, if you call the police and have a police to come out for a false report, don't you get fined? Don't you, if you call them just for fun, can't you get arrested for that? Like, with all of these people calling the police, that's one less officer coming out and handling something that's actually a crime. But you know what? If anything, those people who had the police called on them, they had every right to call the police on those who are harassing them. Because the simple fact is, they're all up in arms about, racism as it pertains to immigrants. You know what? We were not immigrants for this country. We never asked to come here. We didn't get on a boat and in search of a better life. Most of us had a better life in Western and Central Africa. And we were taken away from that to a nightmare. And many of us, when we were kidnapped from our cities and villages, of course our children were separated from us. Even those who were born in this country had their children separated. So you know what? I mean, I do have a lot of empathy for these children that are separated. I personally believe that if you're going to deport an adult, for being in the country illegally, you should send the child with them and not detain them or separate them. You should take them, unless they're not. The only way those children should be separated from their parents would be if those parents if they committed a crime, if they broke another law, and they had to go to jail. Well, just like white American parents and black American parents, if you've committed a crime and no relatives step up and offer to help, those kids are separated from their parents and they go to Child Protective Services while you go to jail. Well, so the simple fact is, if you're deporting these parents, don't deport them without their kids. Don't deport them without their kids. Even if those kids are citizens, they are still minors. So they should go with their parents if you're going to deport them. But separating the kids from their parents, that's ridiculous. But what's ridiculous is how people are now making this a cause célèbre because they hate Trump. When the simple fact is, where would these same people when I think George H.W. Bush had signed this act which allows for these children to be separated. Where was the outcry when Clinton did nothing about it? Where's the outcry when George W. Bush did nothing about it? And for heaven's sake, why did no one say anything? Why wasn't there this national outcry from citizens, immigrant rights groups, celebrities, when Obama did nothing about it? You see, this is not something that Trump did just to mess with the liberals. No. This was on the books. He was just enforcing it. And before you start getting hot and bothered, I am not supporting Trump on this. I'm just saying your outrage is laughable. Your outrage is laughable because you're going to pick and choose who you're going to express this outrage against. But I digress. So, we not only built this country in the cotton fields, in the tobacco fields, in the rice fields, we built this country literally brick by brick. In your skyscrapers, your buildings, your government buildings. We built this country by our inventions. We built this country by our contributions to art and science. We built this country by our inventions. Who do you think invented the streetlight? Huh? Who do you think invented the blood bank? So that when Red Cross goes out or Life Source, that you can donate blood and then they'll send it and keep it in a certain area to give to those who need it. African Americans. We did that. So, we deserve to be in this country. And we deserve to be able to get the same rights and respect that those who came in the late 19th century or from the 20th century, Europe get. Like the Central Eastern Europeans, the Jews. We deserve respect. We deserve to be able to enjoy what this country and our money have to offer without being harassed by someone who thinks we don't deserve to be there. Someone who basically came after things were mostly built. And sure, many of them suffered too, but for many of these individuals, like the Italians, to an extent, the Central and Eastern Europeans, yes, they were mistreated. The Irish, they were mistreated. But after a while, in a way to sort of just create the status quo, they were finally upgraded to white or near white. And that's why many of them, they never hear these stories. Like, you never hear someone saying, you know what? Why is it so hard for a German American to go sit in the park about someone saying I don't belong here? And when was the last time you heard an Italian, even a Sicilian, basically say, I'm just here trying to use the pool, but they gave me a hard time? You don't hear that. You don't hear it from the Polish Americans. You don't hear it from the Russian Americans, the Lithuanian Americans, the Latvian Americans. I mean, sure, you'll hear it from many Caucasians who are not European, like the Middle Easterners, the Iranians, the people from the Caucasus, the people from northern India, the fair-skinned ones. You may hear it from them from time to time. It may come in a different way. Like for instance, while we're being hassled trying to go to a restaurant or get into a pool, someone from the Middle East might be hassled for trying to get on a plane. And then people send threatening messages to mosques. But every generation, the mainstream, or people who supposedly represent the mainstream, will choose to pick on. For instance, in the 50s and 60s, it was for Russian Americans. When the IRA were at work, were at its peak, then maybe in the 70s it was the Irish Americans. And then after all of those plots going on for Puerto Rican independence, it was Puerto Rican Americans. And then for the past 20, 30 years, it was the Arab Americans. But here's the thing. Whenever, like before, they started harassing certain groups, there's always us. After they start harassing all these groups, there's always us. So, a lot of these people, a lot of these non-African Americans, or people who are, like even those who aren't Caucasian, like certain Asians, for instance, even when they get a break from being harassed, when their focus goes away from them, it always comes right back to us. So, for those who have been victimized by black people, I'm sorry. I don't apologize on behalf of all African Americans, even though I am African American, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened to you. I really am. I am sorry that we have those who are considered African Americans who hurt you, who made your life hard. I'm sorry. I am. I truly am. But you want to hear something else? I was victimized by African Americans too. Growing up, there's a time someone tried to mug me. They were African Americans. The people in high school and grade school who picked on me the most, they were African Americans. These guys who had gotten high and didn't stop at the stop sign when I was trying to cross on my bicycle, and I was hit when I was like 20, and then they just laughed and drove away. They were African American. This one guy who kept stalking me, wouldn't leave me alone, he was African American. In fact, for every white person, for every instance of a white person being mistreated by a black person, there are at least 10 instances of black people being mistreated by black people. So, but it's always that one group. Most of us, they're just trying to live life like you are. Most of us just trying to get good jobs. We're trying to take care of our children. We don't want to rob you. We don't want to tag your buildings. We don't want to rape your daughters. We don't want to sell your sons drugs. No. All we want is to be able to live our lives in peace, take care of our families, take care of ourselves, go to church, and for some of us, go to mosque, and so forth. The last thing we want to do is to go around causing trouble, to go around dressing like we have no sense, acting like we have no sense. We are not your enemy. And I know many of you are not mine. Like, in fact, I'll be honest, some African Americans may not like it, but this is a fact. In my life, I've been treated almost twice as better by a white person than by a black person. So, white people are not my enemy, and then many white people are who know me, I'm not their enemy, and I hope to keep it that way. But for those who don't really know us or have your misconceptions, or who are just supremacists or separatists, leave us alone. Let us live our lives. If you don't want to get to know us, that's your right. But the Constitution says we have the right to the same privileges that you have. So if you don't want to get to know us, just leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone. And if we have to be a nation where no one talks, but we're leaving everyone alone, that's a sad existence, but so be it. But leave us alone, leave us alone, leave us alone. I'm out.